I'm Tim Kennedy. I'm the president of Trident Construction, and we're a local general contractor in Charleston, South Carolina. Trident Construction is a commercial general contractor. We specialize and work pretty much in the three counties, Berkeley, Dorchester, and Charleston County, although we do travel a little bit for a customer service relationship. Most of our work is right here in town, and we specialize in negotiated work that is kind of high-end and specialized for the Charleston area. You might call us construction experts in Charleston. What are the top qualities that make an ideal leader? That's a very vast question that can have multiple answers, but I always like to think back to a book that I read one time called The Ideal Team Player. And in that book, there was a discussion about humble, hungry, and people smart. And so I take those three characteristics of being humble, being hungry, but also people smart. So why is being humble an important quality as a leader? You know, humble is kind of a funny word. Some people kind of think humble and they kind of think meek, that that person is meek. But humble is not about being meek. Humble is about being confident, but realizing that you didn't do this all alone. It took thousands of people around you, maybe hundreds of people around you to make you who you are today. And so it's recognizing the fact that really nothing we could have achieved, we can do alone. We do that with the help of all kind of folks. It might be our wife, it might be our children, it might be our coworkers, it might be your mentor, it might be your friends. It takes all of those people around you to deliver you and turn you into the person that you are today. And so by being humble, you realize that I've achieved what I've achieved today because of the inpouring of thousands of people into my life. Well, hungry is such an important quality as a leader because you have to have that internal drive that you want more. And so that's something that when we look at people who are joining our organization, or when I look at myself, I can't gift that to somebody. I can encourage it and bring it out of someone when I see them having that inside, and maybe they don't even know that's inside them yet. But when they have that drive to be better, we can just blossom that person into a wonderful person, right? We invest in that growth mindset where we take people and we try to show them the best person they can possibly be. And if that's our organization or whether that's another organization, we just want people to live their best life so that they can become hungry and humble and people smart. You know, when you're talking about being hungry and you look back and you say, well, how does that manifest itself? What does that look like? And I think back at my own life, and you know, I always had the desire and the dream to have my own construction company. My original plan was I was going to move to Charleston, I was going to work for Trident Construction for 5 years, and then I was going to move back to Columbia and start my own business. But I got here and I realized, wow, Charleston's a really great spot to live. I don't think I want to leave this place. And then I was working for two very inspired leaders that were just treating me super well and saw something in me that helped me develop my own self. And so I used the leverage of that stuff to ultimately become the president and CEO of the company today. And it takes that drive to always get up every day to try to be a little bit better than I was tomorrow than I was yesterday. People smart. It's one of those funny little phrases that you think about, and it really is the essence of leadership. You know, people smart is being able to take your own emotional intelligence and just really common sense and kind of blending those two together. And then you can leverage that knowledge that you have to get the best out of people. It's understanding what makes someone tick so that you cannot not manipulate them, but that you can just inspire them to be a better person and to achieve their goals, which helps you achieve your goals. So you often have to think about, well, how am I prioritizing my own growth? You know, I'm responsible for the growth of everyone in our organization, but my own growth is actually pretty important. You know, you have to think about yourself, and I always try to have the mindset of how am I going to be better tomorrow? How am I going to be better next year than I am today? You know, my lifelong journey, I'm a completely different person today than I was 30 years ago. The people who knew me 30 years ago would think, oh man, that guy's got a short temper. He's got a fuse. The people who work with me today generally don't even know that I have a temper because I generally hide that temper. And that is just something that has evolved in me over the life of becoming a better leader. That's been shaped by so many different things. But I think the thing that really inspires me to do better is actually just a coaching. From one-on-one coaching, I actually meet monthly with a coach. I'm a member of Vistage, which is a local CEO group. I'm a member of a roundtable, which is a construction peer group that we meet that has 7 other construction companies all around the country. And it's just always an effort to inspire to get yourself better. You know, you want to remember that you are the guy who's leading everyone else. You have to set the right example. And so if you're wanting everyone else to get better, then you need yourself to get better. And if you lead by example, others are going to look to you and go, that guy's doing that. Maybe I should try that. And so lead by that example, get that help, work with other folks, and then you will inspire your other team members to do the same thing. Motivation of your team is one of those things that you're always striving to do. But I believe that trust is the foundation of real motivation. And so what we try to do at Trident is create a place where folks know they can trust us. We have their best interests at heart. And so we are going to try to make them to be the best person they can possibly be. We're going to create an environment where they're working in one of the best places that you can work. You can work in construction somewhere else, but it won't be better than it is at Trident Construction. We're going to try to create that environment where you can come to the office, you know you can trust us, we're going to treat you fairly. It's a fair deal for you, it's a fair deal for us. And by creating that space, we're hopeful that people look at us as coaches rather than as their bosses. And we try to create that space where it's just a trusting environment that I know if I make a mistake, I can go to Tim and tell him, oh, I messed this up. And I can understand that he's not going to jump down my throat. He's not going to be upset. He's just going to help me figure out the best path forward and how do we solve the issue that maybe has gotten created. Because, you know, we always want to be inspired, right? So by coaching people, you inspire them. So you create trust and inspiration. And by creating trust and inspiration, people want to aspire to do a great job because they don't want to let you down. And so, you know, it's the old school method was authoritative control, right? You shall do it because I am the boss and I told you to do this, right? Well, today we try to do differently. We try to inspire people and give them that ability to grow and become the best person they can be, rather than just being told to do something. We tell them, hey, this is what we want to achieve. Now you go off and achieve it. Who has been the mentors in my life? Well, I've had many of them, obviously, but I would say there are several that stick out. My 2 original founders at Trident Construction were Robbie Ferry and John David Griffith. They were both great guys. They were originally my boss, who became my friend, who became my partner, and they've since retired, but they really inspired me to become the leader that I am today. I could not do what I do today without them pouring themselves into me for 25 or 30 years. Great inspirational leaders. I would say on the people side, the person that has had a huge impact in my life is actually just watching Dabo Sweeney. My leadership at Trident coincided with Dabo's rise in his coaching at Clemson University. And of course, Dabo's coaching skills was kind of taking a different twist on coaching. He became the player's advocate, trying to make sure that the player was going to develop into the human being they wanted to be when they got off the football field. And so we've taken that same mindset and we've adopted it at Trident Construction to try to develop the people who work for us to become ultimately the person that they want to be, whether it's working for us or whether it's doing something else in their life. There's going to be all sorts of people who are going to enter your life. You'll have lots of followers. But there'll be 3 people who are going to influence you more greatly probably than they should. The first person is going to be the critic. You know, Taylor Swift calls them the hater, right? And so there's always going to be a critic, someone who doesn't like what you're doing or something doesn't like, for some reason, something about you. You need to learn to tune that noise out. Don't listen to that critic. You want to take criticism from people you trust, but you don't want to listen to a critic who's just hating on you for no good reason. The next person is going to be the cheerleader. I hope every one of you have a cheerleader in your life. You need to have a cheerleader in your life. One of the cheerleaders in my life was actually my daughter. You know, I used to tell my wife, if you would just treat me the way my daughter treats me, I would do anything in the world for you, because she was my advocate. She always had my back and she was always thought I was the best. The only problem with a cheerleader is they won't tell you the truth. They're just cheering you on. And so you need that cheerleader because you need to be cheered on as a leader. You need to be driven. So hopefully your spouse will play that role. Maybe it'll be your daughter like it was for me, or maybe it'll be someone else in your life who will be your cheerleader. And then finally, you want to find that coach. You want to find that mentor, that coach who's going to tell you the truth, the one who's going to look at you and say, you kind of screwed that up, or you might need to rethink that, because you need to hear the truth, right? That's the way we get better. That's the way we grow as a person, we grow as an individual, when someone can tell us the truth. And when you find yourself in a leadership position, it's hard to find people who will tell you the truth, because most people are being your cheerleaders, a few people are being your critics, and you need a few people to be your coach. I would say the other thing, just when you talk about personal growth, is to go ahead and make sure you're investing in yourself in that personal growth, because you want to become a student of leadership. And I would say, I look back at my own life, and for many years, I didn't think about leadership. I just did, right? I just kind of did what I did. And I was also finding that in many cases, I was rubbing people the wrong way. And I found that by paying attention to leadership and starting to pay attention to my emotional intelligence, I was actually able to stop rubbing people the wrong way and instead inspire them to do the things that I needed them to do. And so go ahead and take the time to find a coach, listen to a leadership podcast, read a book. I inspire my guys. I try to say, look, take one day a week when you're coming into the office or you're coming into the job site. You're getting the truck anyway. You're listening to sports radio every morning. It's the same thing over and over again. So just make Wednesday your growth day. Say, hey, on Wednesday, I'm not going to listen to sports radio or talk radio or the music or whatever you listen to. Put on a podcast on leadership and just use that one day a week. You'll probably get hooked, and then you'll end up listening to it 3 or 4 days a week. Well, today we've talked about a lot of different things about leadership. You've heard some stories about the way I personally was inspired by the leadership of others, and the way I try to inspire my team through trust and through inspiring them to go off and to become the best person they can possibly be. I could give you direct correlations of people that we've invested in, how we've watched them grow. We have a saying at Trident is that in construction, it's oftentimes the career of last resorts for many of our craft workers. And so we try to find those people who are exceptional, and then we try to invest in them, and we try to show them that there is a career in construction that can be super beneficial. We have a particular guy today who just became, he's kind of had his life all messed up. He was kind of up on drugs, and he ended up, today he's an assistant superintendent for us. And we watched him get his first car, quit driving a moped. We watched him buy his first house. We watched him get married. And, we watched him get his teeth fixed because they were kind of messed up. And we watched him just become an exceptional person. And so we do for one what we wish we could do for many. And so we can't do that for everybody, but when we find those individuals that we can do for one, we want to do that. And I'll just inspire you guys to go off and do the same thing. In whatever industry you happen to be listening from, go off and inspire and invest and grow the people in your company. Find an individual and grow them. It will be the most rewarding thing you will do in your career. Always think about others. Be humble, be hungry, be people smart, and just remember you're going to have critics in your life. You're going to have cheerleaders in your life, and hopefully you'll have a couple of coaches and mentors in your life. Good luck to you.